Welcome. Welcome. How are we? So, can we hear me? Yes, we can. Hope everyone's well. The joys of OBS. So, today, welcome. What we're going to look at, this is a really impromptu, I've got a new web camera as well, probably see me better. But what we're looking at today is the Berserk Incident. Sorry, where are we here? There we go. So we're going to have a look at this fascinating story about the Berserk ship yacht. So it was a yacht of Norwegian explorers, and I've actually wanted to cover this. Let me just put the music back on. Actually, I've actually wanted to cover this for a while, because I had a video once of quite a lot of detailed information, but my mouse is going AWOL here. Sorry. Yeah, it's I had a lot of information on it, but I've lost the video. My hard drive has gave up the ghost. Honestly, I've got to get my hard drive recovered. Anyway, let's get into it. But this is, if you haven't heard about this, okay, and the link's gone. It is quite fascinating. Let's play a bit of Brad Olson as well. I listened to yesterday. Anyway, let's look at the Berserk Incident. The link was up. So, I'm going to read you out. That is the same one, right? Okay. Here we go. So, this is the ship here, as we can see. It's quite a cool looking ship. The reason I talk about this as well, okay, is... Check the streams, okay, yeah, we're all good, okay. The reason I'm talking about this, okay, I've got a yacht, I've got a boat, and after watching Wim's channel about Antarctica, and what's down there, and this the George Fifth Sound, I think it is, Pillars of Hercules, I want to go down there. The more I learn about it, the more I research into it, the more I investigate it, I really want to go down there. I really do. And I've got some videos to show you, and we will look and talk about the Berserk Incident. A group of young guys going off sailing. It's really impromptu, but I've actually wanted to do this episode for a long time, so we'll get into it now. But I've got a lot to go through, and how it links up to... I mean, I was watching a show yesterday, and they're talking about... And I'm not always going to talk about what actually Earth is, whether it's flat, round, crater, huge Earth. But I was watching a show yesterday, and they're talking about Arcturians. Actually, Brad Olson, who has been to Antarctica on several expeditions, and talking about Arcturians and Palladians, and I just zone out. I do not connect with that stuff at all anymore. Really don't. Intuitively, I just don't. So anyway, thanks, Colin. Okay, so let's go. The Berserk Incident. It is a fascinating story. I thought it was actually more recent than 2011, but they also got in trouble with all sorts, and yeah, just quite a lot of stuff. Let me just turn this off the monitor. There we go. So yeah, quite fascinating though. Yeah, that's very cool. Right, okay. So, yeah. So, on February 22nd, 2011, a Norwegian yacht sank off the coast of Antarctica, and 3 of its crew were lost. For a decade, it's been alleged the New Zealand Navy instructed the boat to leave safe at anchorage despite a storm warning. And I've just watched some of the weather down there. My God. I think it's the Coast Guard boat going out to Berserk. You want to see the size of the waves. These things are like... I've been in a lot of rough weather. This is next level though. And it kind of links to Wim's work. About, we all know the Drake Passage, the Yellow Brick Road down that way, and also the waters below South Africa, the south, I think it's the Southern Antarctic Ocean, I think it's called. I'm not sure what it's called actually, but it's the roughest in the world, as well as the Drake Passage. Fascinating. Why it's so rough towards that area as well, isn't it? Like it's the way out. Anyway, for a decade, it's been alleged that New Zealand has instructed the boat to leave safe anchorage. A major investigation by Stuff casts doubt on that claim and has found Maritime New Zealand did not respond to the boat's emergency beacon for more than an hour due to a mistake in inverted commas. Lee Kenny reports on the sinking of the Berserk. How long is that? That's too long to listen to. I'll go through it myself. Oh yeah, this is it here. Look, this video here is. Oh, this should be on. Sorry, just watching something. Look at the waves. And that's a big boat. That looks like a big Coast Guard boat, like 78 foot. Look at that! My God! And they're like constant. Look how quick they're coming. The waves, so steep, crazy. So, I just think it's really interesting, this story. Let's keep going down. Yeah, the storm was ferocious. The winds neared 200 kilometers. Can everybody hear me okay as well, guys, in the chat? Hey, Haley, how you doing? Also calling you. I think the sound's okay. So let's continue. I'm also starting a Friday show, guys. And the first show is this Friday, 7 p.m. UK time, General Metric time. Yeah, and I'm going to do a weekly show. This video is really interesting. Thanks, Sam. This video is next level stuff. I'll try float through a bit of news in a little break when we go to the break in a bit. But yeah, this is my new channel. I'll stream first from my main channel, and we'll be moving on to the EKoM Friday channel. It's also going to kind of connect with the Rise Above show at 9 o'clock. So, you know, this is what I love about all this. We are creating our own Friday night television, you know, and I think it's great. We're creating our parallel society, etc. So, yeah, Rise Above show is great Friday night as well. Big up to the guys and Master Lee. So, oh, and I think my episode's just clocked 10,000 views. My hybrid age presentation has just clicked 10,000 views in 1 month, which is biggest episode I've ever done. So, yeah, and I'm going to start working on another presentation as well, the hybrid age part 2. So we'll see anyway. But yeah, let's continue with the Berserk Incident. Okay, I'm just checking the streams okay and whatnot. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of people watching. Welcome. So I'll just show the new viewers. Yeah, look, this is the weather. The Coast Guard responding to the Berserk's distress call. So crazy. Look at the size of the waves. I just can't get over it. Huge, absolutely huge. Also depends on the time of year you go down there. But anyway, I think a lot of this stuff that's probably about the worst it'll get. I would hope so. So the winds neared 200 kilometers per hour, and icebergs were tossed around by 10-meter waves. My God, imagine being in that weather and having huge icebergs coming up and breaching your boat. That you need a solid boat. I'm glad I've got an oak boat, but you know what I mean. God, next level stuff. A New Zealand naval commander would later describe it as the worst conditions he had experienced in 3 decades at sea. Wow. Before it was over, it claimed the lives of 3 men: Leonard Banks, 32, Tom Gazelle Belika, 36, and Robert Scarns, 34. They were members of the Wild Vikings, a group of adventurers who sailed to Antarctica in a yacht called Berserk, the one with the shark on it. 2 other teammates, Harry Handoy and Samuel Massey, were ashore attempting an audacious expedition to the South Pole. I've heard about this. I heard about this about a year ago, and I think there was actually more of them on shore than that. I heard there was 4 of them on shore, and there's a story about some of them going missing. That was in the other video I had, but it was on my hard drive that's now stopped working for some reason. So yeah, gremlins in the Matrix. Anyway, what were they doing ashore though? And what did they do ashore? We'll never know. They called themselves the Berserkers, an Old Norse word meaning fierce warrior. At first glance, the Berserk was not a typical Antarctic boat. She had shark's teeth painted on the hull, and her name was emblazoned on the sides graffiti style. At 14 meters, same size as my boat, she was relatively small, especially to be sailing in the heavy seas of the Southern Ocean, but she was ice strengthened and her crew were highly competent sailors. One was South African British and 4 were Norwegian. They flew the GODGEVLAMSTE, the red, white and blue Norwegian flag from their stern. Show you the boat again because the boat is pretty cool looking. It is a cool looking boat. I think it's steel hull as well, this boat. It wouldn't be fiberglass in that weather. My boat, being oak, I would rather an oak boat than a fiberglass boat, or a steel boat maybe, but anyway. So, I'm serious. I want to go to Antarctica. I do. I really do. With all what we know, kill, yeah. Sounds okay. Because I've got some music playing in the background. So, yeah, honestly, what's down there? Why do they not want anybody to go down there? That's my question. So, let's continue. After leaving New Zealand in January 2011, they sailed to Antarctica to mark the centenary of Roald Amundsen, conquest of the South Pole. Captain Roald Amundsen led the first expedition to reach the South Pole in December 1911. The vessel was skippered by Hellboy, the expedition leader. With pale blue eyes and unkempt hair, Hellboy cut a sort of rock star adventurer figure. He had a reputation for his daring exploits, but he could also be reckless. Once, as part of a Bear Grylls style documentary on Norwegian TV, he approached a wild polar bear. On another occasion, he had a dangerously close encounter with a walrus. His Antarctic endeavor was no different. If successful, he and Massey would be the first people to reach the bottom of the earth on quad bikes. Yeah, I heard when they were sailing, they had them strapped down, which, if you've got 2 quads on the top of your boat, that's going to be a lot of weight high up for sailing. Anyway, they made it though, so maybe they took the engine out of the quads, put the engine down lower to spread the weight, I don't know. But they were covered up and they did make it. The information I had about a year ago was the story that I heard a year ago from the video I watched. I do have the video somewhere, but it'll have to wait until I recover my hard drive. But the story I heard was 2 or 3 of them went missing and 1 came back from the land. That's what I heard. Anyway, so there we go. Also, my Telegram groups, guys. You can join my Telegram groups. There's a lot of really good information. There's a lot of good stuff in my Telegram groups. But let's not get sidetracked. So easy to do that. so much to talk about. Anyway, but yeah, let's continue with the story. It's I've got a lot to read out, so I might stop halfway through, play some of God Badger's Antarctica stuff. I've also made a new video with a really good track actually, so I'll play that in a bit. Anyway, his Antarctic. Oh no, I didn't read that. Sorry. He could also be reckless. This is the expedition leader, Janus. Was it Janus? Yeris. Yeah, Yeris Hellboy. Once, as part of a Bear Grylls style documentary on Norwegian TV, he approached a wild polar bear. On another occasion, he had a dangerously close encounter with a walrus. His Antarctic endeavor was no different. If successful, he and Massey would be the first people to reach the bottom of the earth on quad bikes. But to get there, they would face freezing temperatures and the risk of falling into one of the many crevasses, the deep fissures that scar the Antarctic landscape. The other issue was the timing. Most South Pole expeditions are launched between November and January, ideally after the wintering over of the ice. The Berserkers planned to cross the frozen continent in February, late in the polar season when the weather would be much worse. After Antoy and Massey went ashore, Banks, Belika and Skarnes dropped anchor in a sheltered cove in McMurdo Sound. McMurdo Base is very real. There are actually some pictures in the slideshow on the bottom left of your screen of McMurdo and of McMurdo when it was in its origins, I think it was the 60s. So anyway, but yeah, the plan was they would wait until the land team returned, but inexplicably the three men decided to leave the bay and sail into a polar storm. They were never seen again. I didn't hear that in the previous story I heard a year ago. That's one of the sailors, Samuel Massey. Young as well, eh? Samuel Massey was a typical disaffected teen, the son of a Norwegian mother and British father. He was studying mechanical engineering. I'm not going to read all that out. Just going in the background of Samuel. Yari Antoy was the captain, the expedition leader of the boat. Just talking about their upbringing. It was mid-2010. Massey was 17 years old and had to get his parents' permission before joining the crew of Berserk. Stopped in Singapore. Lenny Banks was a carpenter who lived for surfing and reggae. They were all a bunch of little stoners, which sounds pretty cool. That's what it sounds like. So, let me just see. Yeah, there were all the little islands as well. Very interesting. Right, so let's keep skipping down. Crazy. They had to get permission as well from, I think it was the Argentinian Navy. Yeah, they got into someone took them to court. I think it was the Argentinian government, because they said they had permission, but they didn't from the Argentinians. But again, you know, I've also heard Brad Olsen. Actually, I'll play this video now because I need a drink as well. I'll play this little clip from Brad Olsen. Listen to what he says about Antarctica. Yeah, check it out, okay? Just a sec. So, it's an interesting... my Antarctica group's really good guys as well. It's quite a big group, a lot of people in this group. But by all means, come and join it. The links are in the description to all of my videos. So, I'll leave you with Brad Olsen for a little bit. I'm going to make a cup of tea and enjoy.
In all these subjects, and as well as the possibility of craft being under the ice or pyramids poking through or excavations going on. So I asked everybody that would talk to me if they knew anything about it, and for the most part got a no, I just don't know. And I believe that they just don't know. If you go down there as, say, a marine biologist, well, you study marine biology and you go down there to do your job. You're not being privy to the information about, say, for example, the elite going down there. Now they're going down there again, but in 2016, just a couple years before I was there, that's when they were all going down there for some reason. And some of them, including Prince Harry, went to the South Pole with a bunch of his army buddies, and they went cross-country skiing to the 89th parallel. That's very significant because that is where the giant rumored hole under the ice is located. And why would you ski across the polar plateau? There's absolutely nothing to see or do for a week unless you're going to check this out. And this is where Admiral Byrd said that he saw this giant hole and it was wide enough and big enough that he felt confident to take his plane down into it, circle around and come back out. And one thing I did find out when I was down there is absolutely 100%, there's a big no-fly zone over this section near the South Pole. Yeah, there was another base called the Belgrano 2, another Argentinian base that kind of got it out of this marine biologist guy. Didn't want to tell me at first that they had a UFO sighting a few weeks prior.
To when you were there?
Yeah. So there is a lot of paranormal activity that's going on down there. And boy, I tell you, if you ever wanted to hide from the rest of the world, that's the place to go because there are just so few people there. So when everybody leaves in March, the skeleton crew that stays on some of these bases is only 1,000 people on the fifth largest continent of the world. So it is really
there's nobody there.
Landscape. Yeah, nobody's there. So
did you need a visa? Did you need a visa to go there?
So that's a really interesting story because I've traveled the world. I've been to all 7 continents now, and usually my passports are all chock full of stamps. In the case of Antarctica, we had to go to the Argentinian Navy and submit our itinerary, where we were going. And it's pretty much everybody goes to this section of the Palmer Peninsula. I can't say that going inland is that forbidden, but I did talk to a company that takes trips down there, and you can book a trip to go pretty much anywhere you want. So some of this is not necessarily true that it's all cordoned off, and certainly it's not a flat earth either. I've been there, set foot on the continent. But so we went to the naval offices. There is a base in Ushuaia. And then we had to go to the customs station, which is right by where all the cruise ships come in. And even though I was stamped into Argentina, I got stamped out of Argentina and did not get stamped in anywhere in Antarctica. Wow. In fact, when we came back 26 days later, we got stamped back into Argentina. So it was like kind of no man's land as far as countries go, but that's what Antarctica is per the Antarctica Treaty. It is a continent that has been set aside as a biosphere, like a world park, that below the 60 parallel, everything is preserved. And although there are interests in mining and fishing and other exploitation of the resources, so far the Antarctica Treaty is held, and they haven't been able to do that. Only research stations are allowed to go, and they have no trace policy that if you up and move your base somewhere or you want to close it down, you have to take everything out of there. Nothing gets left behind. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
Yeah, running with the more esoteric aspects of down there and thinking of things like the Piratechain map that shows it without ice and so on. I'm a huge fan, well, beyond fan of the writer H.P. Lovecraft, and I actually believe the man was a mystic, and rather than he was actually channeling information and putting it into fiction. But he has a story called At the Mountains of Madness, which it's actually his best story, it's his biggest story, his longest story, which takes place with an expedition crew who goes deep into the Antarctic and discovers basically an ancient city. Do you believe that under those ice, there are things, there are Easter Islands and Stonehenges and ancient cities? Do you believe? I have a hunch it's probably true, but how do you feel about that?
I have a hunch that it's true as well. Do I have the evidence? Well, sort of. Just recently, a whistleblower came to one of my colleagues, Michael Sala, who does the Exopolitik website. And just right after I did an interview with him about a week and a half ago, he came out with this new whistleblower information showing an area in New Schwabenland, in the German claim. Now on a globe, you'd see it as Queen Maud Land, but it's basically the Antarctica territory directly south of South Africa. And on the Google Earth, and I went there organically, I did it myself using the coordinates and saw it. it had been covered. And I'll tell you, I do a PowerPoint presentation at conferences called The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica, and I show a bunch of stuff that I've collected off of Google Earth, including areas that are just big white square over it. They don't even really take the effort to try to match the terrain. You just see the big black white square, right? So I believe this was a location that had been heretofore hidden, and now the whistleblower says you can go and see it. Just like if you look in Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada around Area 51, they have just identified and shown where the S4 base is, where Bob Lazar worked. So I think maybe this is part of the opening up of the narrative that now Google is feeling the pressure that they have to reveal some of these locations. So the one that Dr. Sala's whistleblower showed was on a rocky plateau, and it showed these long lines like a runway, even some buildings, albeit they're still a little blurry. Would like to see those get better resolution. But the fact is nobody's seen them since then. And they show what were most likely a base. Now, also in the New Schwabenland area, I have identified locations where there are big domes that you could fly planes into, suggesting underground bases there. And indeed, this is what the Nazis discovered. The whole network of under ice using the volcanism, the hydroelectric, tapping into that whole idea that you can create electricity, heat under the ice, and this whole network of tunnels and rivers flowing fresh water as well, that they could get their U-boats down into. And in Beyond Esoteric, I actually have two of the Nazi maps. This top one is how the U-boats navigated under the ice. In my presentation, I have some slides of what Antarctica would look like without the ice. And there are massive long fjords that go under the ice for hundreds of miles. And you could just think how intrepid those U-boat pilots and sailors were to take their submarines so deep into Antarctica. And that's why I think now.
Welcome back. Okay, so I'm going to stop that video there. It's good, but it's talking about the Germans, and I'm just going to show you a video, because if you don't know about the Germans, etc. Where is it? Here we go. If you don't know about Germans, check out this episode on my channel. I'll show you, because it goes into depth into this subject of what the Germans found. I'm just going to show you this episode because it is quite good on what I really did quite a lot of investigation on this one. Where is it? Antarctica. Base 211. Yeah, this one here. This episode here, I go into all sorts. If you follow the mid-Atlantic ridged line down from the North Atlantic, it goes right down, kind of like past South Africa. There's a Drake Passage, there's a yellow brick road, and you got Deception Island down here, etc. But anyway, that's, if you want to look at, if you don't know about the Germans and what they found in Antarctica, totally different subject. Check out that episode, Base 211, that I've done. It's good. It's a good one. Let's go back into the article. So, I'm not going to get into all the German stuff. That's why I stopped Brad Olsen there. I'm just fascinated with Antarctica, and you know, I've got some, if you keep watching the slideshow, there's some pictures there that show, I've actually got some pictures, yes, in my Antarctica group, which I'll show you right now. It's, some of my friends went on a trip and they put some pictures on Facebook and people are walking around Antarctica, no gloves, holding ski poles. I ski. I know if it's cold, you cannot hold a ski pole for let alone a minute. So it looks very warm to me. That's my point, okay? This is it here, look at all the pictures. All the pictures looks beautiful as well. But it looks beautiful. It doesn't look cold though, eh? A fat seal. But beautiful place as well. That boat is awesome. Look at it. Awesome boat. How much money, you know. Again, this links to our tax money. Where does it actually go? What do they use it for? All these foundations. Also Tomorrowland. On that note, I'll play you a video from Wim. And it also links to my sailing group. I've got a sailing group now. Escape Biosphere Earth. Yeah, really. As you know, I've all got a boat. I'm going to be leaving Britain very soon and heading across the Atlantic. But come check out my sailing group if you're interested in traveling and learning how to bypass the matrix in this, you know, Klein world we're in at the moment. Check out my sailing group. It's interesting. Some other interesting stuff in there as well. Like survival stuff and whatnot. It's quite good. So anyway, but yeah, let's show you quickly this video that I've made. I love it, actually. It's good. So here you go.
Potential for creation of human-like androids is seen as a threat. The UN passes an accord strictly prohibiting android development. Japan resorts to the extreme step of withdrawing from the UN to pursue a policy of high-tech national isolation.
For 10 years, Japan has operated below the radar. In recent months, however, we have observed a surge of new activity. The mission before us: infiltrate Japan.
They're the ones that did this. They're the people.
Matrix is a system, Neil. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system. That makes them money. You have to understand.
Welcome back. How are we doing? I was still playing. Bollocks. Well, it's finished now. The joy of OBS. I am going to finish now. Right, anyway. But that's just a little video about from some GODGEVLAMSTE stuff, etc, etc. Right, I want to make sure this is playing all right. Okay. Let's continue with the Berserk Incident. So, let's continue with it. It's a long article. I'm not going to read all of it out because I've looked before, but I didn't think it was this long, but it's very, very long. So, as we know, the Wild Vikings wanted to explore Antarctica, and they had 2 quad bikes. The Berserk, the yacht, was heavily laden as she left Auckland. As well as the 2 quad bikes, she carried fuel, cold weather gear, and enough food to winter over. Anything that didn't fit into a storage place was lashed to the deck. So yeah, it must have been a fascinating trip. Let's continue down. There's a lot of cool photos as well. But that's the Coast Guard. That looks like the ship that was the Navy, actually, maybe. Oh, the New Zealand Navy. There you go. Yeah, that was the Wellington. That was a video. That was the ship that was breaching these waves here. Same ship, the Wellington. And you see how big that ship is. So a small small ship would get tossed around like oh my god. Serious weather. Anyway, but yeah, so let's continue with the story. And there was another ship, the Coast Guard. The Wellington entered McMurdo Sound in the early hours of February 21st. The crew sailed into Backdoor Bay, a sheltered natural harbour just south of Horseshoe Bay. Private ships frequently sail to Antarctica, but favour the more accessible Antarctic Peninsula south of Argentina. Few visit Ross Island, where New Zealand's Scott Base and America's McMurdo Station are located. Partly why I'm doing this episode is because I want to create, I've got a sailing group now, and I want to create a flotilla of boats. Let's go to Antarctica in numbers. Let's go in numbers. See what they do then. That's my plan. That's what I'm thinking about. Why not? Depends what happens here. I've got so much to talk about. I'm not even going to get into the news, and there does seem to be a lull everywhere. But it's just scaled escalation. I wouldn't get your hopes up, although pushback has happened, but it's been a strategic withdrawal. especially in Britain and Ireland. Anyway, let's continue with the story. The Wellington, we've read a bit. You can also read as well. I don't have to read it all out. But that's McMurdo Station, although it's a lot bigger than that. I've got other pictures of it. Oh, I'll put the slideshow back on. There, pardon me. There are some pictures. Look how warm it looks there. That was Russia. That was Russia actually. Those tanks. If the crew of the Wellington were surprised to see the Berserk, it's not difficult to imagine Banks, Belika, Skarnes being equally startled. Remember, the two other guys were on Antarctica. The Wild Vikings were the ones who initiated radio contact. They saw it as a chance to score some cigarettes. Not many of the smokers. They were reluctant to part with their tobacco. Anyway, at 9 a.m, look, Nimrod. It was also was it Shackleton's expedition in the early 20th century? His ship was called Nimrod, and that links to Poseidon, all sorts of. I'm not even going to go there, Anyway, there was a storm coming. I wonder what they were doing on Antarctica though. God, it is quite small actually. Looks smaller there than it did in other photos. I think my boat might be a tiny bit bigger than that. But anyway. But fascinating story. I'll put the link to this article it's on interactive.stuff.co.nz. Just type in the Berserk Incident. It's one of the main articles comes up. So I want to get to the point where they're on land. Let's keep going down. That's playing cool, okay. As a safety precaution, they were in contact with the Berserk every 6 hours via satellite phone. When the storm hit, the crew didn't answer the call. At 7:40, almost 2 hours after it was activated, the Berserk relayed the distress signal to the Wellington, which was 14 nautical miles from Berserk's last known location, and that was rough weather. Wellington's a top speed of 22 knots in good conditions, but on that day, it was probably 4 times as slow. It's probably only like 5-6 knots in that weather. Anyway, those waves were swelling to 10 meters high. God. Even that the water was freezing to ice on the upper decks. My God. So the frigate was damaged, and 4 of its 6 life rafts were lost overboard. God, worst conditions, and that was the Simon Griffiths, that's the leader. Steve Irwin boat. So anyway, let's continue. That was around the same time as the Christchurch earthquake. Strange. Right. Another. Under international law, any ship is required to come to the aid of another in distress. Along with the Wellington, 2 other vessels responded to Berserk's emergency beacon. One was the Steve Irwin 59-meter ship that was part of the Sea Shepherd fleet. Fascinating. Conditions had improved by the time they arrived at McMurdo Sound. Steve Irwin had its own helicopter, started searching for Berserk. The 3rd ship to join the search was the Spirit of Enderby, aka Professor Kromov, a ship that ran Antarctic cruisers from New Zealand. On the ship was Rodney Russ, founder of Christchurch-based tour heritage expeditions. He suspects the Berserk either hit floating ice or had ice on the mast and rigging, making it top heavy and causing it top size. Yeah, that might be a thing actually. Wow. So yeah, and they were sort of slagging, they were sort of putting them down, the thought of their expedition. You don't start going to the South Pole in mid-February. It's probably very true. So they were a little bit foolish in their timing, I think. We read that before as well at the start of the article. But they're brave. On February 25th, the crew of the Steve Irwin recovered the Berserk's damaged life raft 45 miles north of where the beacon was first triggered. There was no one inside. The life raft had not been used, but the first aid kit and survival knife were missing. There's a life raft there actually. So Paul Watson wasn't surprised from the moment he heard about the distress signal. He doubted anyone would be alive. It most likely came down on a growler and crushed a hull and went down real fast. So yeah, the lifeboat was ripped apart pretty much. God. Seawater freezes at minus 1.8. There's another video. I'll show you this video.
Here is a stunningly beautiful place, but as we found out, it's also very remote, very hostile, and very, very unforgiving. Our trials were the first time in 40 years that the RNZN's taken a ship into Antarctic waters. We got down as far south as McMurdo Station, which we believe is as far south as any New Zealand naval ship has ever been. We were also caught up in a rather nasty little Ross Sea storm that battered us for the better part of 2 days, and we were also involved in searching for a Norwegian yacht, the Berserk, which found itself in distress. In that situation, unfortunately, we weren't able to get to them in time to help them out. The storm we experienced in the Ross Sea was the first of the winter storms to come through the area, and from all accounts it was probably the most severe in 20 years. It produced icy cold winds up to 100 knots straight off the Ross ice shelf, and in conjunction with that the seas rose to 6 to 8 metres and at times 10 metres. They were pretty violent, and it's some of the most severe weather that I've experienced in my 20 years in the Navy. When you're caught in a storm like that, you pretty much have to turn into it and ride it out, and that's what we did. We managed to over a 24-hour period, just ride out these waves. The ship handled it incredibly well. It's designed to operate in those sort of conditions, and its performance during those 24 hours proved that it is more than capable of handling those conditions.
Interesting. But you know what I think, right? And this could be me being skeptical, whatever, but I wonder, because I heard a different story a year ago. I didn't hear about this. Well, I heard about what happened on land more, but I don't know. I'm just wondering, you know, the way governments portray a certain situation. Just a contrast, let's watch this video for a minute, okay? Let's watch this.
Have you ever dreamt of sailing to Antarctica? I had. So, when a friend of mine, who had built her own sailing steel boat, asked me if I wanted to join. Oh, I said yes, of course I want to join. For you who don't know me, my name is Linda. I teach women to sail, and 2016 to 19 I sailed around the world with women crew. To come to Antarctica, you have to cross the Drake's Passage, 500 miles on one of the world's most feared seas. You know, the roaring 40s, furious 50s and screaming 60s. And the reason why it is so feared is the regular gales, but also the sea state. The fetch is enormous. the waves can build up all the way around the Antarctic continent. And then you also have the icebergs. From the latitude 40 and over, you risk to encounter icebergs. The reward is the pristine landscape, fearless penguins, and all those colors that are created only from snow and light. 10 years ago, I met Milo.
So just an example of the other weather you can sail in. I think that weather I just showed you of the Navy ship going out was like worst case scenario. And I think they pushed that footage out there to put people off going there. That's what I think. Although I'm not saying the Drake Passage is not rough. I'm sure it is very rough. Anyway, let's continue. I might do a little part 2 on this one because I want the other information that I had in the video. I had like a 15-minute video, and they were talking about the court case that he was involved in with the Argentinian government, and I'll find that information for part 2. So anyway, but yeah, a decade on, it remains a mystery why the crew, why the crew of the Berserk, there we go, we got something muted, there we go. A decade on, it remains a mystery why the crew of the Berserk would have left safe anchorage and sailed out to sea, knowing a storm was coming. During this investigation, 3 theories emerged. The most incendiary implicates the New Zealand Navy, that the Wellington ordered the Berserk uninvited and lacking any formal permission to leave Backdoor Bay. That's what I think they did. That's what I think they were kind of pushing Berserk out of the bay into troubled waters because there was a storm coming. That's what I think happened. In a Facebook post in 2016, on the 5th anniversary of the tragedy, and Hoy wrote, "Our shipmates disappeared in the Ross Sea after contact with the New Zealand Navy. Today we know that the New Zealand Navy, polar authorities and Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Norway and New Zealand withheld information. Lies about circumstances, weather, has stolen expedition gear and erased the last traces of the Berserk Expedition 2011. He later doubled down on the theory, telling the Outside online website that the Wellington made contact with the Berserk 3 times, was carrying out surveillance, and New Zealand set a strategy to offer no hospitality." Yep. Samuel Massey too doubts the cigar version when they went to ask him for cigarettes, and suspects the Wellington ordered the Berserk to leave. "I have got no idea that would make anybody leave a safe harbour into the storm," he says. "That is illogical. You just don't do it. You wouldn't do it, would you?" So there we go. I think I'm going to make a part 2 out of this as well and get that other information from the video. So quite incendiary, isn't it? It's quite seems to be a little bit naughty from the old New Zealand Navy and authorities, like they didn't want the Berserk to be there, when you can actually travel to Antarctica, and Brad Olson talks about it. Do you know what? I'll play the rest of that little thing actually from Brad Olson. And I'll just play you the rest of it because I'm going to sign out now. So, hope you all enjoyed the episode as well. There is a bit more, but again, I'm going to save the rest for the other information. I'll find this video that I'm on about. There is one more little video actually. This video actually, watch. Yeah, it's quite a good one.
Sette på vindroret for å slippe å sitte på roret hele tiden. Mye detaljer som skal ordnes. Okay, so ready? Ready for what? Sleep? No port? No starboard this time? Yeah. Good. Let's do it. De mulighetene jeg fikk ved å gå på skolen og gjøre det vanlige, de ga meg ikke det som jeg kunne slå meg til ro med. Altså, da jeg var i de omgivelsene, så følte jeg at dette her er ikke meg. Her passer jeg dårlig inn.
Po 3 mesecih priprav je Jarle nared za odhod.
Just so you guys know, that was can't remember his name off the top of my head now, but that was the main explorer. He's travelled quite a lot of continents, but just a little video here of obviously before the trip. So anyway, I'll play a bit more of this, and then yeah, ciao for now, and catch you in part 2. Also, catch you on the show on Friday, 7 o'clock. Ciao for now.
Forberedelse for Antarktis. Båten er skipsskip. Fylt opp med vann og bensin og alt som er. Mat for 3 måneder. Nå går kursen til caboodle, Drake-passasjen. Og Minneord gjør jobben. Can point the camera here. Og satt på luker foran vinduene, slik at bølgene i Drake-passasjen ikke knuser rutene våre.
Toda Jarlejevi načrti se bodo spremenili. V trenutku, ko je pripravljen na samotno potovanje, dobi nepričakovan obisk.
I want to go to Antarctica, and I love the adventure. It's the adventure of it. And this is an adventure.
Edina težava je v tem, da njegova obiskovalca nimata jadralnih izkušenj. Kljub temu Jarle novo posadko z veseljem sprejme.
Dette her er det nye mannskapet som er ombord i Berserken. De sitter nå og knyter knuter og lærer å bli seilere. So, let's start with Davy. Davy?
Yes, Captain.
How did you get on board the Berserk, and what's your aim going to Antarctica?
Well, I've traveled some other continents in the world, all of them, and I wanted to go to Antarctica. I didn't want to go on a simple cruise ship or a tourist ship, and I heard about the captain, heard about you in Punta Arenas. A friend of mine had come down to Ushuaia and had heard that there was a small boat going. So I got down here as fast as I could, hoping to see if you needed some help. And there you were. And just in the nick of time, we arrived. I picked up this compadre on the street. We came down, and here we are.
So, Emmanuel, what about you?
Well, I was sitting there on a little bench on the tourist information plaza in Ushuaia, and then I started talking to this compadre, and hey, never been to Ushuaia before. And I'm kind of tired of reading about adventure, you know? So, this is my life now. Todo or nada. All or nothing.
It's a search. I have a habit of running for anything that is not comfortable or that is not easy, and there is no way out of this. So I will have to surrender and hey, and trust. It's the final frontier, the last untouched continent, the wildest, most remote place, and I want to see it.
So how are you feeling, man?
Green! I feel green!
But hey, this is life, right? We love it. Now point away so I don't barf.
David je brezskrben pustolovec, ki se hitro prilagodi razmeram. Manuel pa beži pred ženo, s katero se je poročil šele pred tednom dni. Zdaj je razdvojen, sprašuje se, ali je storil prav. Večino časa trpi za morsko boleznijo. Jarle ni prepričan, da se je pravilno odločil.
Altså, de hadde utvilsomt innstilling for å dra på tur. De ville på tur. De kom ned og hadde den der helhjertet 100% innstillingen. Og det som gjenstod, det var å se hvordan man fungerer sammen i en båt.
How's it going, Manuel? Good. My stomach is empty. But I'm at the end of the world. What about yourself, David? I'm having the time of my life. Good.
Manuel in David sta pred odhodom prestala enotedensko preizkušnjo. Toda nihče od njiju ni pripravljen na razmere, ki vladajo južno od rta Horn.
Vi hadde tatt hverandre i hånda som tre brødre før vi dro, at vi skulle gjennom dette her.
Hey, Manuel! How's it going there? Hey! It's great. I just like to look at the fish close up, you know? Because it's not the same from a comfortable position like that one. You gotta get in the water, you know? You gotta taste the shit. As many times as you can. Okay.
Når folk kommer i en ekstrem situasjon, så kan det slå ut veldig alle veier. Og det er først da du ser til bunns i et menneske. David tok det helt med ro. Han var i muligheten selv.
Toda Manuela pestijo hujše težave od morske bolezni. Voda ga je ohromila. Ni mu več do duhovičenja.
Jeg har sett det før, og folk har blitt skremt på sjøen, men det går over igjen. Altså, det er en sånn kort følelse så lenge du akkurat har hatt stormen over deg, og du har sett hvor liten du er i forhold til brølende sjømasser. Og jeg regner med at det samme ville skje med han, at han hadde fått litt panikk og var litt skremt, og at dette ville gå over rimelig kjapt.
Manuel želi, da Jarle jadrnice obrne nazaj proti Čilu.
Det ville da bety kryss mot Kapolien, altså mot vinden tilbake. Så var det bare en vei, og det var å holde kursen og seile sydover.
Manuel uprizori nekakšen upor. Večino časa preživi v spalni vreči. Tudi jadrnica je popustila pred neurjem.
Båten er som et bomba horehus. Muligens som vanlig. Alt er vått. Vi har en liten skade her på styrbord maststøtte. Skader som dette er ikke helt svært for uten. Men ikke å gjøre noe. Førverket sprekker. Vi får gjøre litt nødreparasjoner når vi kommer i beskyttet ankringsplass. Den henger til tørk. Vindroret knakk. Og her sitter David på roret. So David, how's your feeling after the storm, after the broken wind vane, and after the broken sea anchor?
It's good to be alive, I'll tell you that. I'm sure you heard about our force 12 gales. It was nothing, really. Now we're sailing along the drink. Beautiful sunny day. Here we are. Going to Antarctica, baby!
Lepo vreme poživi tudi Manuela.
She's a manic.
Her henger det til tørk.
Is he filming? Why don't we wait for Antarctica, Chief?
Back in business.
What do you mean?
Well, welcome everybody to Jarla's Kitchen of Wonders. And Jarla, what have we here? What are you making?
Faen I helvete!
Smells good.
Jeg prøver å tørke hanskene. Dette gikk litt for fort. Prøver å lage mat og tørke hansker.
I don't know what he said, but they look dry.
Okay.
That's funny. Okay, so there is our dinner.
Rice with tomato. Resten av den turen der så spiste Manuel sjokolade I stedet for pasta og løk, som David og jeg spiste. Og han fikk jævlig bra behandling.
Come on, then get it over with! I can't! I dropped the toilet paper! Yarly, give him some fucking toilet paper! Get him out of here! I am trying to drive! Come on, Jarla! Shit!
Vi nå I arktisk farvann, og det kaldt og høy luftfuktighet. Men utover det så går det fint. Hver eneste mil vi kommer sydover nå, så blir faren for å møte isfjell større og større. Kurs sydover altså, og cirka et par dager igjen til vi kommer til Peninsula.
Neprestano je treba prežati na ledene gore.
Recording. Rolling.
Okay. The date is 29th of January, 99. John Manuel Hernandez, how did you come here?
I sailed on the Berserk from Ushuaia. I hitchhiked to Ushuaia, and then I just kept on going. It took 10 minutes to decide our fate, and I was coming down here.
Before leaving, you had heard about the Drake Passage.
No.
You had heard it was a tough ocean to pass.
From you. Well, all I heard, I have heard from you.
Yes, and you've also heard about Antarctica before you came here.
I haven't heard about Antarctica all my life. Yes,
it's
but
cool.
What do you specifically mean?
What I want to get to is that
thank you.
We came down here, a team, 3 people. You were the one who's the hitchhiker, who has brought very little, bringing no clothes, which you would borrow from me because I had enough to borrow you, and you have had clothes during the whole passage.
Still my feet are numb, yes.
Your feet are numb, it's cold feet. You are in Antarctica.
Det hadde gått så langt at vi måtte bare få han av på en måte.
Ampak kaj storiti s potnikom na samotnem območju, kakršno je Antarktika? Jarle in David razkrijeta svoje občutke.
Hvis ikke vi finner løsning til deg her, så seiler vi deg tilbake til Sydamerika, til Argentina, og det sånn det må bli.
Toda Manuel se noče ponovno spopasti z oceanom v tako majhni ladici. Želi, da ga odložita na kitolovski postaji, kjer bi ga nato pobrali reševalci. Jarle to zamisel takoj zavrne.
Det hinsides all fornuft. Det var aldri noen nødsituasjon, og det var så langt ifra. Det hele dreide seg om at han ville hjem til kona si, og altså... Det som I utgangspunktet hadde vært en tur hvor vi var 3 stykker som skulle dra sammen på eventyr, det hadde blitt nå en sutretur for han, at nå ville han hjem.
Končno se sporazumejo. Odrinejo proti argentinski raziskovalni bazi, ki je oddaljena nekaj dni plovbe. Morda bodo tam naleteli na ljudi. In morda bo Manuel lahko tam počakal, da ga rešijo. Ponovno se razživijo, saj se zdi, da so težavo razrešili. Zavejo se svoje okolice.